Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Esports Racing League presented by Spec Racer Sports, Alliance Autosport, and Grassroots Motorsports Magazine here on Apex Racing TV. Over the course of our 9-week regular season, and then that winner-take-all championship that we like to call the runoffs, we hope to bring you some of the best racing around in 3 different classes, well known to club racers here in the United States: Spec Miata, Spec Racer Ford, and Formula 4. I'm Greg Ginsburg, and along with DJ Clark in the commentary booth and Jonathan Grabowski in the virtual production trailer, we're going to wind our way through beautiful Lexington, Ohio to Steam Corners Road and the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Opened in 1962, Mid-Ohio, like many of the tracks of its era, was built right into the land. And according to its designer, Les Griebling, it was designed really with one goal, one singular goal, and that was, believe it or not, to be difficult. But we'll get to that in just a moment, because as we do each week, we're going to feature 2 20-minute races tonight, 2 sprint races, and first on track will be the Formula 4 drivers. As you can see there, as you look at Joaquin Effinger making his way around the track here in qualifying, and we're going to follow that up with Spec Miata here tonight. The Spec Racer Fords, well, they'll be on track next week when the Esports Racing League descends upon WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. So welcome back, DJ. And after an evening of outright speed last week at the Glen, we find ourselves in the middle of madness here at Mid-Ohio.
Yeah, we certainly do, and it's no surprising that the original designer of the track set out to make this track difficult because, well, in a word, that's what it is, especially coming down through China Beach and Madness. Some of the most difficult corners on the iRacing service, very, very tricky to get right, in large part because of the elevation change around here. You've got to be very, very cautious getting onto the throttle pedal. Very easy to spin the rear tires, whether you're in these IRO 4s or in the MX-5s that we'll see later tonight. It's going to be a real test of driver endurance, and passing opportunities without a mistake in front of you going to be a little bit scarce.
Yeah, much like many of the race courses of its day, Mid-Ohio not that wide, it's not exactly a single lane course on the back half. But in some cases, because of the elevation changes, because of the constant changing in direction, it can sometimes race that way. There are some very, very hard braking zones that are traditional passing areas, like coming down into the keyhole, what is essentially turn 2 here at Mid-Ohio, as we watch, once again, I believe the 700 machine of Effinger come through that hairpin, which drops away and falls off camber on exit. And then, of course, going down, as you mentioned, down into turn 4 at the end of the one major straightaway, long straightaway here at Mid-Ohio, and that takes you to turn 4 with that big, giant gravel trap known as China Beach, just staring you in the face. It's definitely a challenging track here. But DJ, as we've got our drivers now about halfway through their 15-minute qualifying session, let's quickly take a look back to last week where we had our Formula 4 drivers, our IR04 drivers, racing at Watkins Glen, where Justin Huffman, I believe, took his very first win ever here in the Esports Racing League. And Justin, who races a Formula Enterprises 2 Formula car in real life, managed to pilot the Formula 4 machine to the win. Margin of victory over Beans Forster, 1800ths of a second. Ray Blethen came home in third, took the last step on the podium. Deacon Greenfield, Jim Brewster rounding out your top 5. And if we take a look at the point standings now in Formula 4, after I believe 3 races out of 6 this season, and tonight is going to be race number 4, Beans Forster maintains a 10-point advantage over Justin Huffman, with Beans at 63 points, Huffman at 53 points, and then we've got Ray Blethen, another 8 points in arrears, sitting with 45 points. Then Wayne Buttermore, who's put in a lot of time over the last couple months in trying to improve his abilities behind the Formula 4 car. Matter of fact, I think he's been focusing on that chassis pretty much exclusively. He is currently 4th with 39 points, and then only a single point back from there is Joaquin Effinger, sitting in 5th position. So still, fairly tight here, as we're now DJ only halfway through the Formula 4 season.
Yeah, plenty to play for up at the top, and I think races today, like Mid-Ohio, could be the deciding factor. If you're able to qualify well out here, get yourself at the front of the field, it can be very, very easy to sort of slip off into the distance or be able to mount a very, very stout defense and prevent anybody from getting on by you. So today could be a little bit of a turning point for these drivers up at the top of the field. They're going to be hoping to have a good result here today and carry that momentum. Obviously, we're going to be off next week in the IRO4s, but definitely want to carry that momentum through the end of the season.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. And so as we're now just a little bit less than 5 minutes away from the checkered flag coming out on our qualifying session here, Nagase Yoshikawa is your provisional pole sitter. Fast time for him, a 1:20.89. So he is currently here, what about almost 3/10 up on Justin Huffman, who's got a 1:21.13, and we'll call it a 1:27 in the books. John Vogel, Andrew Wozencroft, who makes his return this weekend in the number 80 machine. Those two drivers, 3rd and 4th. And as they go through very, very close, only about 7/100ths of a second separating those two drivers. And then Beans Forster, our current championship leader, only 5th fastest at the moment with a 1:21.5 in the book, so almost 6/10 off of our provisional pole time here, DJ. So real quick, DJ, just because we never know when we get to Mid-Ohio if we're going to have a short pace lap or if we're going to have a long pace lap, let's quickly talk about our sponsor for tonight's first race of the evening, and that's Alliance Autosport, based out of Columbus, Ohio. Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course being Alliance's home track, and they've found a success both at the club as well as the professional levels, garnering multiple championships, including 8 SCCA National Championships, 3 SCCA Pro Racing Championships, as well as a USF 2000 National Championship. Alliance Autosports team members are dedicated, hardworking, and they know exactly what it takes to win. Alliance is SCCA Enterprises Great Lakes Division customer service representative for both Formula Enterprises 2 as well as Spec Racer Ford Gen 3, and their services include arrive and drive packages for both of those as well as for Trans Am 2. In addition, they offer customer car prep, trackside support, transportation, storage, part sales, data analysis, and hospitality, as well as that all-important driver coaching and development. To join Alliance Autosport on the winning track, check them out at allianceautosport.com. There we go. I might have been able to fit that in the short pace lap, but probably not. All right, we're on board right now watching Stephen Blethen, driver of the number 150 machine. He's looking for, he had a great run a couple of weeks ago at his one of his home tracks, Lime Rock Park. I think New Hampshire is actually his home track, but Stephen, who's only been doing iRacing now for a couple of months, and I think the IRO4, the Formula 4 car, probably the least out of any of the other chassis, as he typically in real life races, much like his brother Ray, runs in SCCA Club Racing a Touring 4 Mazda RX-8, so you couldn't get much different, I think, here, DJ, from the real life car to the virtual.
No, you certainly couldn't. And trust me, these IRO4s, yes, they are a little bit of learning cars, but there's a pretty steep learning curve to them. You've got to really be on your toes around here. Very, very easy to be able to lock up the car a little bit, have a little bit of problem there. And you've got to be very careful, especially coming through a place here like Mid-Ohio, where those lockups, because of the cambering on some of this circuit, it can really come back to bite you.
Yeah, and as opposed to what we saw last week at Watkins Glen, where almost every single corner is a high-speed corner. You didn't really have any very, very hard braking zones. Certainly, turn 1, the 90 at Watkins Glen, did give a number of our IRO4, our Formula 4 drivers, some fits. That's the hardest braking zone there is, but that particular one, you still want, wow, somebody just went off at Madness. You still want to learn to carry as much speed through that corner as possible. But here, especially the real hard threshold braking that you have going down in the turn 4, as well as going into the keyhole. Certainly if you have setup issues, if you've got balance issues with the car, if you've got brake bias issues, it can certainly lead to a lot of front wheel lockups, and possibly, depending on how you do your shifting, could lead to the rear end coming around as well as you do that weight transfer.
Yeah, most certainly, and specifically in these IRO4s, that's really where you're going to see a lot of that problem, and that weight transfer going to be a big thing that you've got to keep in mind on. You've got to be careful of your inputs when you're bringing the car through the corner. You don't want to be too violent with anything, too aggressive with any of the pushes that you make coming through these corners, because it will come back to bite you. Rest assured, that's something Mid-Ohio loves to do.
Yes, indeed it does. That is one of the huge challenges here. As we said, we've got plenty of racetracks that we race at where you've got changes from on camber to off camber turns. You're going from left to right. I look back to Sonoma just a few weeks ago, which is another one of those tracks, or where you think of Barber Motorsports Park, where your hands are seemingly always moving. You don't really get a lot of chance to rest and relax, but you throw in the extreme elevation changes from corner to corner here at Mid-Ohio, and it certainly introduces quite a number more variables that you have to work through in order to keep this car on course. As the checkered flag is now on and out, and we're following Josh Justice around right now. Josh picking up, I believe, his very first win last week in the Esports Racing League in Spec Racer Ford. It was good to talk to him and interview him at the end of the night last week. He's on his last flying lap here. Gets a little wide through the carousel, and as he brings it across the line, trying to improve upon 7th fastest in a 121.77. Does he do that? No, he does not. He puts in a 122.2, and so does not improve.
Not going to be going up there for him. Looks like he's going to take a little bit of a sojourn off the course there for a moment. Coming back across, here is Raymond Blethen coming down through the carousel. Another tricky part of the corner. Let's see if he's able to manage this well.
And Ray is trying to improve upon 9th right now. He's got a 122.009 in the books. He's got to pick up, about 12, well, actually 13 thousandths of a second to leapfrog Ray Wong and move up from the 5th row to the 4th row. As he's coming around, takes a very late entry here into the carousel, and as he comes onto the front straight to complete his last qualifying lap, does Ray Bluffett improve? No, he does not. He puts in a 122.33, almost 0.3 off of his previous fast time. All right, so that's going to send all of our drivers back into the pits, and they're going to be gridding up here in just a moment, DJ. And here they come. Let's run down the starting order tonight. On pole with a qualifying time of 120.891. Nagase Yoshikawa driving the, I believe, the purple number 98 machine. John Vogel, just a 10th back from there. He's going to be starting on the outside of row number 1 in the number 4 machine. Justin Huffman, last week's winner in the 223. He's going to start 3rd tonight with Andrew Wozencroft starting next to him in 4th. Beans Forster, our championship leader from Team Watson Racing. He's going to start 5th tonight with Deacon Greenfield starting in 6th. Josh Justice will start 7th tonight in the blue number 99 machine. Ray Wong will start in 8th. Ray Blethen, who we just followed around in qualifying, he's going to start on the inside of row number 5, right next to Andrew Benna.
Then it's going to be Jeff Andrews back in 11th position, followed by Stephen Blethen with Mark Sherman and Yoko Effinger on the row behind them. Antonio Rice will be in 15th, followed by David Tamira, and then Russ Lundberg will bring up the back of the field, although I think I have some breaking news that Russ, unfortunately, not able to take to the grid.
Oh, that is unfortunate that he's not going to be able to join here. And we've got that short pace lap, so, hopefully he will be able to jump in. Well, there you go. Sorry, I'm not there tonight. I always enjoy FR. He said he had to come home from work. All right, so green flag is in the air as we take that start on the short front straight here, come underneath the Cooper Tire Bridge and through turn 1, where our drivers all have to watch out for that curbing on the inside as Deacon Greenfield jumps in the air. He comes across and impacts at least one other car, but it looks like everybody besides Greenfield was able to continue. And Greenfield now getting back in line here as our drivers come through the keyhole for the first time. John Vogel gets around. Oh, and we've got another incident now in the keyhole. And it looks like Jeff Andrews, as well as one of the Blethen brothers, tied up. And I believe that's Ray Blethen that was involved with Jeff Andrews coming out of the keyhole. And we'll get... All right, let's do this, DJ, as John Vogel has the lead. Let's take a look at what happened to Deacon Greenfield, already dropping a wheel before he even got to the Cooper Tire Bridge.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to come in there, just kind of finds a little bit of closed-in space. Unfortunately, I think there was some air in between there. May have been a little bit of netcode action, but that is going to cause him to be spat back out onto the track. Looks like he's able to avoid any massive damage to that number 36.
Yeah, and it looked like he might have gotten into the back of Beans Forster's car. And maybe it was a little net code where he went jumping in the air, but there was another car that impacted him and seemed to continue on. There may be at least one car that's got a damaged front wheel. Let's take a look at, I believe this is now Josh Justice coming down into the carousel. And let's see what happens here.
Looks like he just gets tipped around there, a little bit over eager of a move coming in behind, coming back through the keyhole, and there you can see the even more action that was collected there by the two. Yeah. So we had the 99 machine, we had Jeff Andrews, we had Ray Blethen, the 65 and the 151 involved, and it looks like Deacon Greenfield might have had some more damage than perhaps we thought. DJ, he finds himself now in the pits along with Blethen and Andrews. So as we jump back here to live action, Nagase Yoshikawa has managed to not only get around John Vogel, but John Vogel, as we well, and there's the 150 machine of Stephen Blethen going around. Looks like coming out of madness, coming down that hill and going into the S's. But John Vogel, who had been leading on lap 1 as we were going through all of those replays, he now finds himself back in 5th position. Yeah, and I think there was a little bit of contact there between Yoshikawa and Vogel, and that may have forced Vogel out just a little bit wide. It seemed very, very close coming through turn 4 and 5. Oh!
And that, oh wow, and that is Joaquin Effinger in the 700 machine, as he may have gotten some of the curbing coming through the final corner and heading on to the front straight here. And for the moment, it looks like he is recovered. But let's see exactly, first off, let's take a look and see exactly what happened to John Vogel here, DJ.
Well, it looks like this is going to be coming down into turn 4. There you're going to see Yoshikawa on the outside trying to make that move stick. And then it looks like, oh, again, that dreaded netcode just coming back to bite. Not a lot of damage there between the two drivers, but certainly forced Vogel off the track and made him lose a bucket load of time.
Yeah, there you go. So John Vogel now falling back. So we jump back to real-life action here, and we're looking at Josh Justice and Stephen Bleth in the 99 and the 150. And I think we've got another view here. It looks like Justice might have had some more issues. This is coming through the carousel, and this is right ahead of where Joaquin Effinger went around. And not a great view from there, DJ, but it might be that Justice got into the back of Joaquin Effinger, the back of the 700 machine. Hopefully we'll be able, maybe we'll be able to get another view of that from a different angle. All right, and I think Jonathan is reading my mind in the in the back, and here we go. I think we've got another view. Let's take a look as Josh Justice now coming through the carousel, and we'll watch as he's right behind. I think I think that was Sherman, and then Effinger, and yeah, got right into the back of the 700 machine.
Yeah, and I think there for Effinger, you could see, I think what happened was Justice didn't anticipate him slowing down nearly as much as he did. I think Effinger actually lost a little bit of traction there with the rear tire, and that's kind of what forced that concertina up of Justice coming into the back of him there. So a little bit of a mistake from Effinger leading to all of that contact, but Justice left with nowhere to go. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and you could just see the closing rate there in that turn, and it is a, you know, that is a full throttle turn coming through there. You're still accelerating out of the carousel, but unfortunate for him, he's there, and it looks like we may have lost John Vogel. We see him now be as in the pits, and so let's take a look and see exactly what happened to our former leader and outside pole sitter.
This is coming down into turn 4, catches the outside grass there. That's a little easy to do if you carry just a hair too much speed. And now he's going to try to bring the car back around. And as he does so, couldn't get those rear tires to spin up to do a nice little pirouette and rammed on into the wall.
And just drove headfirst into the wall. You know, I think I did that earlier tonight with the door to my office. And my guess is John Vogel is probably doing that right now from the pit lane. As we're starting to see a good portion of the field sitting in the pits right now. We've got Vogel, we've got Justice, Ray Wong, Deacon Greenfield, as well as Joaquin Effinger there, and I believe Blethen and Andrews have checked out of the session, so we now have just 8 drivers remaining here as we jump up to our top 3. Third in that line, Beans Forster in the number 231 machine. He's our current points leader, tucking in right behind Andrew Wozencroft in that white number 80 machine out of the Spec Racer Ford driver in real life, and they're both behind Nagase Yoshikawa as he leads the field through Thunder Valley here on lap number 6. As we're just only, and we've seen all this action, DJ, in the first 7 minutes. We've still got 13 more to go here. I'm hoping that we actually have a few drivers left to tell the tale by the time the checkered flag comes out.
I am too, but that's unfortunately one of the things about Mid-Ohio. We talked about how difficult it is. We talked about how tricky it is, and you are seeing that come to bear here today as we jump on board with Antonio Rice right now. As he is currently your biggest mover on the field, up 9 positions, really taking advantage of the misfortune of others in front of him.
Yeah, indeed. I guess when you've got like 6 or 7 that have already retired, he did start from the tail end of the field. He's got a long way to go, however, to get up to Andrew Benna in 5th, currently about, I believe, 7 seconds back from Andrew Benna, as the field is kind of spread out at this point behind Rice, who've got Stephen Blethen and Mark Sherman. Also, both of those drivers up 5 as we jump back to this battle for the lead, coming underneath the Honda Bridge and heading down into turn 9. And, you know, and this is another one we talk about, the elevation changes, and you can see it right there, is that at that crest, You come out of turn 9, you've really got to have the car all squared up, DJ, or, you know, another place, as the car gets light, you could have it, the rear end just kind of walk around on you. And here we see our drivers in a very different entry into the carousel for Andrew Wozencroft than both Yoshikawa and Forster, keeping more of a very tight line into that corner.
Well, the truth is, Greg, is that's one of the few corners on this track where you can take a little bit of an alternate line. You can try to do a little bit of that differing opinion and try to figure some things out. The rest of this track, as we said before, pretty single file around here, either because of the camber like you have coming through the keyhole that it drops away from you on the outside of the track, or because of the elevation changes going up through turn 4 and through Madness and through the S's. It can really be a little bit of a one-lane highway through here, and if you want to try to get a pass going down into turn 4 here, for example, it is super high commitment to be able to make that work. You have got to be absolutely on it. Even running on the real line there with Wozencroft, you can hear those tires screeching away.
Exactly, and you know, and what makes it so difficult there is you typically want to make that pass going into turn 4 from the outside, not from the inside, because the track switches and starts to head up that hill to turn 5 to Madness so quickly. You know, the best thing that you can do is to continue to carry speed up and get underneath the car in front of you on the next turn. That passing opportunity is usually takes at least 2 turns to get done, and you know, that in itself, going and trying to make the pass from the outside takes so much commitment at turn 4, because you do have China Beach. You've got that huge gravel trap just staring you in the face, and as you look over to driver's left and try and keep those left wheels on the pavement and not in the grass, you know, that gravel trap just kind of looms in front of you.
Yeah, it certainly does. And I'll tell you somebody else who's doing a little bit of looming here at this point, and that's Justin Huffman. He's been keeping relatively decent pace with the drivers up in front of him, Forster, Wozencroft, and Yoshikawa. I think if those 3 start to get into an almighty scrap in the second half of this here race, I think Justin Huffman may be able to find himself in the catbird seat and able to move forward.
Yeah, certainly being 3 seconds out is not insurmountable, I think, at all, especially, again, with such a tight course. If our top 3 drivers start to jockey for position here, with now just a little bit less than 10 minutes remaining. And again, our second race this evening. We urge you to please stick around after this sprint race. We're going to have the Spec Miatas here on track from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. And always a very challenging race, as we see now for a moment there. Beans Forster, I think, looking at how tight Wozencroft stays, and maybe, you know, I don't know if he's setting anything up at the moment, but you could see there, DJ, where maybe he's trying to judge how deep into the brakes he can go going into the carousel, and maybe try and run around the outside of the number 80 machine. That's assuming, of course, that the network connectivity issues don't come back to bite him. And I think we had that with Beans at Watkins Glen at a few places on track as well.
Yeah, most certainly, and that can scare you if you're a driver behind the car, but I think you're right about what Beans is doing. He's just kind of testing the waters here at this point, trying to see where he's going to be able to get grip going down through the carousel to be able to really springboard an attack, and then doing the same kind of thing here through turn 5, just peeking a little bit this way, a little bit that way, seeing how far offline he can go, and that's going to serve 2 functions. Number 1, he's going to be able to test out those lines a little bit, and 2, he's going to try to scare Andrew Wozencroft off of that line, filling his rear view mirrors here.
Exactly. So it's a combination of maybe a little bit of intimidation, but just as much there, as you can see him going very deep once again. A lot of experimentation thrown in there as well, and I guess it's up to Andrew Wozencroft to determine which is which, and that's what makes it so difficult. But for the moment here, Yoshikawa opening up a bit of a gap back to Wozencroft and Forster. Is the gap now only about 7/10, but I think probably larger than it has been for the last 4 laps or so, as maybe Wozencroft is worried a little more about what's behind him than what's in front of him.
Well, I've been watching the rear end of that number 80, and it looks a little bit skittish at different points, applying the throttle a little bit, just like the tires are slipping a little bit over the pavement. And so I think that there's a little bit of that, and there could be a little bit of a problem here where we may have overcooked those rears ever so slightly. It's not particularly hot out on track, but if you overdrive these IRO 4s, those rear tires in particular can overheat very quickly.
And they don't come back very easily either, as it looks like now Justin Huffman starting to make up a little bit of ground. Last time by, he was about 2/10 faster than our top 3 drivers. He knocked a couple of tenths off. We had been seeing him right around 3.1, 3.2 seconds. He had that down coming out of the keyhole to just about 2.5 seconds, but seems to have lost a little bit of ground here on the second half of the course. That he does appear, he appears to get very strong, very good runs out of the keyhole, but maybe a little bit weaker once they get to turn 4 than our top 3 drivers.
Yeah, and that could be just a little bit of a confidence issue. You have to really, really commit going down into the whole turn 4 through turn 9 sequence, that whole bit of craziness. And so he may just not fully feel the car up underneath him. But I want to give some credit here. Andrew Wozencroft being able to catch back up to Yoshikawa. That gap now under 0.3 of a second.
Yeah, I mean, just as we had spoken about how we thought maybe the tires were starting to go away, maybe it would take a little bit to get those rear tires back underneath him. Wozencroft runs the fastest lap of the race and made up about 25 hundredths of a second to Yoshikawa and put himself right back into a very good position. The question is going to be when he's going to he still has to work his way up a little bit more, maybe another half a car length to really challenge Yoshikawa and make Yoshikawa take notice. But, we've only got 5 minutes left to go, only a quarter of this race remaining.
Yeah, not a whole lot of time here, and I think for these top 3, they're going to know that block up there from Yoshikawa. That is the first sign of a mistake that we've really seen out of these top 3 since the drop of the green flag.
Indeed, and, we saw there that perhaps as they came out of Thunder Valley and went down towards the carousel, that perhaps Wozencroft was maybe not in the best position to take advantage of that brake lockup. He dropped all the way back to about 4 car lengths back, and we noticed, and perhaps he had even gotten out of the throttle just a little bit there, DJ, as it looked as though there was a very early braking maneuver from the 231 of Forster, who was the 3rd car in, going there, that perhaps they all maybe overreacted a little bit to what the 98 car was doing.
Yeah, I think when they saw that little bit of a lockup and that little bit of a skid from Yoshikawa, it wasn't worrying about attack. It was worrying about, oh man, if he goes prone across the track, how am I going to recover from
exactly.
that?
Yeah, look for my exit options. Exactly, is keep your eyes up and look in either direction to find and trying to determine where your out is as they come up over that rise at turn 9. And once again, Wozencroft and Forster have made up a little bit of ground. But again, it always looks like, say, out of turn 6 as they come underneath the Honda bridge, that maybe Wozencroft loses a little bit of ground to Yoshikawa. Now, the other thing you'll notice there, DJ, and maybe there's a lot to be said for for Wozencroft's tires, maybe having been run off early on in this race, as he's starting to open up that corner coming through the carousel a little bit. That might be to defend against Forster, who now comes and pulls alongside, coming down into the keyhole and getting around the number 80 machine. It is Beans Forster, and DJ, he made it look pretty easy.
Yeah, I think Wozencroft may have let him go by there, choosing discretion as the better part of valor, not wanting to put up too much of a fight, and recognizing that Beans just had the speed there. I don't think he was really fighting that tooth and nail.
No, it looked like he didn't move over on him. He left him a lot of room there, and it looked, I don't want to say it was completely uncontested, but it looked close to being that way. And here, let's take a look at a replay here. And we'll see them both as they come out of turn 1.
Yeah, come out of turn 1 there, and it just looks like Beans has got the better run. Pretty clearly makes his indication known there that he's going to pull off to the outside. And yeah, you can see that very early lift. Wozencroft let him go. Yeah,
definitely. He could have gone much deeper down into the keyhole, but you could see pretty early on the binders there to give plenty of clearance to the 231 machine, as we are now starting lap number 14, And you'll see here is Forster now a little bit more than half a second back. But that last time through, the two drivers ran almost identical lap times, Yoshikawa and Forster, only about 0.02 of a second separating them as they crossed the line. Or let's try that again. Only about 0.02 of a second on that last lap separated those two drivers as they're making the run down towards turn 4. And Forster, and we've talked a little bit about this, DJ, that the draft in these cars, it's not that extreme. It's definitely there. You could see where Forster maybe made up over the course of the back straight, maybe a quarter to a half a car length. And I think we've actually got, as the drivers are coming into turn 9 now, I think we've got a little bit of a replay that we can we've got Andrew Benna here coming down into the carousel. And Andrew Benna coming into the pits and not quite making it to the pit lane.
Yeah, it looks like, and that's an easy thing to do here. You carry a little bit too much speed. You're coming in from the track, and if you just get a little bit of that oversteer or a little bit of that understeer, picks you up into the outside, spits you out into the grass, and the grass around here is like the grass on so many circuits on iRacing. It is ice if you touch it.
I was going to say it's more like glass than grass, and exactly. And so Benna goes around, and it kind of reminds me of that bend that you have. You've got the cones there that you have to get down to the pit lane speed by the time you get to those cones, and all the while you've got a very tight left-hand turn to bring you onto the pit lane. Kind of reminds me of what our drivers will see next week at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca if they have to pit in. Again, the advantage of these 20-minute sprint races is few and far between are the times that you need to actually head into the pit lane. So, I mean, by Benna going in there, I think was a tacit understanding that his race was more or less done. As I didn't even notice this, DJ, we're on the final lap now as our drivers are coming through turn 9 and heading into Thunder Valley with Yoshikawa, your leader, Beans Forster about a car length and a half behind, another car length and a half back to Andrew Wozencroft as they come through the final 2 corners and onto the front straight, and taking the win here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in Formula 4. It's going to be Nagase Yoshikawa, Beans Forster, our championship leader, going to improve upon that lead, I think, here after this race. He comes home in second. Andrew Wozencroft comes home in third. Last week's winner, that is Justin Huffman. He's going to come home in 4th position. And Antonio Rice, there he is, coming through the final corners now. Coming through the last 2 corners. He started off 15th tonight, works his way all the way up into 5th.
Yeah, it's an impressive run for him to be able to gain those positions. I'm particularly going to be interested to see what Rice is going to be able to do when we switch over into the MX-5s. Hopefully get a better qualifying session there for him, as he clearly likes this Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course.
Indeed, indeed. And now we're following Stephen Blethen here in the number 150 machine. Made up 6 positions, not the cleanest race for him, but he crosses the line in 6th. Mark Sherman in the number 18 car. He will come home in 7th. As he crosses the stripe, and then I think Josh Justice, just ahead of him, was a lap down, comes home in 8th, and those are all of our runners here at the end. All right, so DJ, we've got Beans Forster sitting in the green room. Let's bring him in, talk to him, our championship leader, finishing 2nd tonight from Mid-Ohio in Formula 4.
Yes, indeed, Beans. Looked like a pretty processional race there for you, although a good move being able to be thrown on Andrew Wozencroft, but how was it from behind the wheel?
It's very, very, very frustrating because it's extremely hard to pass here. I never was really ever able to get a run on anybody and be super confident. So I just kind of threw it in there, and I guess it worked.
Well, I mean, how do you have to sort of counteract that as a driver when you're dealing on a track that it is difficult to overtake on? We saw you kind of maybe poking your nose this way and that way. Is it a matter of trying to elicit a mistake out of the driver in front of you, or what exactly are your keys to doing a good job?
Yeah, it's a little bit of all that. Trying to kind of stay in the mirrors and trying to get him to look at me instead of where he's going. I mean, because the way these turns with how there's like a ridge right in the middle of a lot of these sweeping turns. It's so easy to just lose the rear, and you kind of got to play it smart, because if you do that, then you just lose so much more ground.
Well, you clearly were able to hold on to good plenty ground. Expectations going high for the MX-5s here next up?
Yeah, yeah, I'm hoping I can do a pretty good job.
Well, I wish you all the luck in the world, Beans. Anybody you'd like to thank, though, for a second place here in the IRO4s?
I just want to thank all you guys here and all the drivers for making this league what it is.
Well, we'll let you get back to it, Beans. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
All right, there you go. Beans Forster driving the number 231 Formula 4 machine, finishing second tonight at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. And as we've said, up next is going to be Spec Miatas here from Mid-Ohio. And before we take a break to thank some of our sponsors, if you like what you're seeing here tonight, please give us that big thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed to Apex Racing TV, you need to do so now. Click on that subscribe button, and of course, click on the notification bell to let that, so that we can let you know every time that we go live. And of course, if you want to follow us on social media, you can catch us on Facebook, on Instagram, and if it's still around by the end of the week, you can catch us on Twitter too. All you got to do is search for one single word, Apex Racing TV, and that is it. So let's do this. Let's take that quick break, DJ, and when we come back, it's Spec Miatas here from Mid-Ohio. You are watching the Ray Esports Racing League Season 7, and we'll be right back. And we're back here at Mid-Ohio for season number 7, the fall series of the Ray Esports Racing League. I'm Greg Ginsberg along with DJ Clark, and next up, Spec Miatas. And so DJ is, we've got our drivers now. They've just started qualifying here. So we've got about 15 minutes to kill. Yay. Here, let's do this. Let's quickly take a look and I'm looking at who's joining the session here, and I'm seeing some folks that maybe I didn't anticipate joining, but we'll get to that in just a moment here. DJ, let's quickly take a look back to last week once again to Spec Racer Ford. They're not racing with us here this week, but they will be out in force next week at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. They'll be running with the MX-5s. And taking the win, as I think we mentioned earlier, Josh Justice in the number 99 machine got his very first win in the Esports Racing League. Margin of victory over John Vogel, 4.2 seconds. Beans Forster finishing in third. Then Deacon Greenfield, great run for him in the number 36 machine. He finishes fourth, and then Justin Huffman in the 223 finishes in fifth. And I think that may have been Justin's best ever finish in well, actually maybe not his best ever finish in Spec Racer Ford, but pretty darn close. And if we take a look at the championship standings in Spec Racer Ford now, and this is after 4 races. I believe next week will be race number 5 for the Spec Racer Fords. Beans Forster, once again in a second class, he is your championship leader. He's got a 16-point advantage over Jim Brewster. And Jim, I think, has been pretty much running exclusively the Spec Racer Ford races with us, but the big difference is he's only run 3 of the races, whereas Beans has run all 4. He is 16 points back. Then we've got John Vogel, also having only run 3 races, and then Deacon Greenfield fourth in the championship, and only 4 points separating Vogel from Greenfield, and another 2 back to Charles Vaccaro for Vaccaro Racing. And so good tight battle there in the championship at Spec Racer Ford, but we'll talk more about them next week. Let's go and take a look at Spec Miata. The last time they were on track with us was 2 weeks ago at, again, a track somewhat similar to Mid-Ohio in the way it races. But Beans Forster took the win, margin of victory 16 seconds over Murphy Nichols. And that was, I think, a battle where we had some of our drivers at the front end of the field drop off the course. Here, Stephen Blethen, a great drive for him. I think his first ever podium here in the Esports Racing League. And good run for the driver of the 150 machine to come home in third. Kevin Langer finished in fourth. Deacon Greenfield finished in fifth. And the championship standings right now in Spec Miata, Beans Forster, it's starting to sound like a broken record around here. Beans Forster with 77 points. He's got a 24-point advantage over Murphy Nichols. We'll have to see if Murphy's here looking to move up in the standings. Kevin Langer, third in the championship, 4 points back from Nichols, and then only a single point back from Langer is Deacon Greenfield in the number 36 machine. And then we've got Stephen Blethen on the back of that great finish at Sonoma, currently sitting fifth in the championship, and I believe that's with only two races in the books. And well, talk about madness there, DJ. I think we just saw that up at the top of turn 5.
Yeah, indeed, we did. Things getting a little bit crazier here. Not any downforce to lean on in these MX-5s, so that's going to mean it's all down to mechanical grip here for these cars, and that's going to make things easier, I think, in terms of following behind one another, but drivers are going to find it a little bit difficult through some of the higher speed portions of this track to try to keep up.
Indeed. All right, so yeah, we do have a couple folks checking in with us that had not been with us, I think, at Sonoma. Jameson Huffman, who is our provisional pole sitter right now in the number 89 machine with a time of 136.47 seconds. He has now almost a second and a half on the rest of the field. Well, maybe not any longer. Now let's call it a second up on the rest of the field as Andrew Wozencroft, who we saw just a few moments ago, is now your second fastest driver, turning a 137.48. Nagase Yoshikawa, our winner from race 1, currently qualified third with a 138. We'll call it a 138 flat. Then Deacon Greenfield. But we've got Huffman in the field, who was not with us at Sonoma. We've got Morgan Burkhardt, who was last season's champion. We show him is checked into the session. He has not turned a lap yet, however, and there you go. He's out on track right now. Actually, he had turned a lap, just did not set a lap time. And there he is in the number 40 That's interesting. The number 40 Jegs machine here looking to maybe move up from, well, I guess he's technically sitting 18th in the order right now, as he and his teammate Jameson having some fun over there over at turn 9.
It looks like they're having a good time. Here is Justin Huffman, though, right now, as he tries to work his way around through the course. About 9 minutes, call it 8 minutes left remaining, coming down through turn 9 right now. Able to keep everything underneath him there. Looks like this could be a halfway decent lap. I'm not seeing any massive improvements on sector times, but he could be able to put one together nice and easy.
Yeah, we'll see here. He had a little bit of trouble at turn 9 where he turned in, I think, a little early and had to grab the car across, but we'll see here now. Interesting to note, we talked as you were talking to Beans Forster in that interview after race 1, and he talked about how difficult it is to pass here, how it is, and we've discussed this, a one-lane track. We now have somewhere along the lines of 23, 24 drivers out on track here, and you can see where many of them are very much bunched up. And that is going to certainly create issues here if you're trying to set a fast lap time. You don't want to be here racing in qualifying. You want to be able to set fast laps, and it means a lot of work from people that may not be on a flyer, like we just saw Justin Huffman pull offline a little bit to allow two drivers by.
Yeah, may not necessarily be enough to be able to get that to be done, but here is Jeff Andrews. Now, he's going to be getting something that I think could be a little bit crucial here in these MX-5s. He's getting the draft off of the cars in front of him coming down the back straightaway. Now, remember, no aero wash to deal with in these cars, so this could just be a help and maybe help him pick up a couple of tenths here.
Yeah, and he's sitting a couple car lengths back, so he doesn't necessarily have to worry at this point about coming up and maybe having his run stunted by the driver ahead, and he's just getting that nice little pull. He got it down the back straightaway. He's getting it here coming up and into Thunder Valley, where he's going to need it as well, as long as he can keep the car straightened up on course. So Andrews looking to improve upon 8th. Just as we're speaking, Josh Justice just turned in a 37.97. That moves him up to 5th fastest. And we see some drivers having to deal with the cones there on track coming out of turn number 1. Of course, we're running today what is known as the Pro Course here. This is the 2.25 mile, 13 turn edition of the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Back in, I believe it was back in, oh my gosh, I think it was 1990 thereabouts, where the chicane that we have as we take a look here, as I think that's wow, and some drivers still having some challenges there as we watch Stephen Blethen here. You can see the cones there marking off the chicane that leads you up to the keyhole. That was put in back in 1990, and that of course adds a couple extra turns and really changes the entry to the keyhole, since you're not taking that straight shot, and you I would say in many cases it's maybe a little bit more difficult because the car gets very unloaded just on turn in, but if anything you go through that keyhole much more slowly. But not running that version tonight. We had the option in iRacing, but we're running what they call the Pro Course, which is the straight run from turn 1 to the keyhole.
Yes, we are, as we watch right now. Here is Andrew Benna working his way around. Somebody got it very, very wrong up in front of him, as there was a big bunch of brake smoke there. Benna currently in 10th place right now. Rice able to improve a couple of positions up into P4.
There you go, as Rice turns in a 137.66, and that now vaults him ahead of Beans Forster, and only about 2/10 back from Andrew Wozencroft, who is provisionally 3rd. For Rice to move up in time, we've still got a lot of time. Still got about 4 minutes on the clock. Rice would need to beat a 137.4 in order to find himself onto the front row.
Yeah, he'll have to really, really cook it here. It's not out of the realm of possibility here. About 4 minutes left to go, but I think he could use a little bit of draft help if he really wants to be able to find himself up at the front of the field.
Indeed, and well, there you go. That lap's going to be called off, and so as time is starting to run, and we said a little bit less than 4 minutes now. He's going to have to take an out lap and maybe get one more flyer if he's going to try and improve upon that time as he takes his car back to the pits. As we're on board right now with Ray Blethyn in the 151 machine. Ray currently sitting 8th in the order, and you can see there about 4/10 off of 7th off of Deacon Greenfield as he comes across the line. Does Ray Blethyn improve? He puts in a 38.32, or probably 82. So that does not improve. That's actually 5/10 off of his previous best. I think his brother, Stephen Blethyn, a little bit further behind. And for the moment right now, looks like Ray and Stephen, DJ, would be queued up to be your 5th row.
Yeah, well, but look at that time just put in by Burkhardt in the number 40, jumping all the way up into P2 and only about less than a 10th off of Huffman in front of him. That is a mega lap here.
Indeed, and looks like Huffman just running off track there, not going to be able to put in another flyer, but Morgan Burkhardt on what may be either his last flying lap, or he may actually get this in one more chance if he keeps it in the throttle here. But he doesn't have the benefit of a draft from anybody there. He's going to have to do it all by himself as he puts in that 136.52 or 5:15. He is still a little bit less than a 10th off of his teammate there.
Yeah, and here as we ride on board with Burkhardt, you see just how much sawing at the wheel he's really having to do and going through Madness and the S's. Now watch his hands here. Get a little bit of overcorrection and then a lot of snapping back there on him as he comes up and over turn 9, but handled very, very well for Burkhardt.
Yeah, and you can see there as he's using every last bit of track there before turning into turn 11. That very fast left-hand sweeper had the side of the car all the way up against the guardrail as he comes through the final 2 corners and onto the front straight. Can he improve upon that 136.52? As he comes across the line, Morgan Burkhardt puts in a 136. He puts in a 136.52. Actually does not improve. He was a couple hundredths of a second off of his previous best time. Very, very consistent, I will say, on what now will likely be his last flying lap. We're watching now Beans Forster, our championship leader, currently qualified 6th as he comes across the line, trying to improve upon a 137.89, and he does not improve. He puts in a 37.892. So I guess he technically did improve by about 1/100th of a second there. But again, very consistent lap times from Forster.
Well, and that is a good sign here for a lot of these drivers. Is there you see Beans pulling off to the side, not thinking he's going to get much better. But if these drivers are able to be consistent over the course of the running, that means to keep an eye out for them during the course of the 20-minute race.
Indeed, indeed. And we're now back on board with Antonio Rice, who we saw him call off a flying lap a little bit earlier as he went off at turn 4. This would be his last chance to improve, currently sitting 5th. At the moment would be starting right next to Beans Forster. He'd be on the inside of row number 3. And I think the last time we checked in with Rice, he was sitting trying to find a way out of 4th position up onto row number 2. We'll see if he can improve here as the time has now expired. Checkered flag is in the air. And this should be the last flying lap here for Antonio Rice. We've still got a few drivers on track. Yeah, it looks like Rice may have called off that flying lap there. And as we look at Josh Justice, he obviously has called his last lap off. he's going grass cutting. And Jeff Andrews, who early on in the session, I believe was as high as 7th, currently finds himself in 12th position in that yellow number 65 machine as he's got now just 2 more corners to go here in qualifying, looking to improve upon a 138.47. The last time by ran a 149.1, so he's wildly off his previous best. Let's see if he can improve here as he crosses the line, and he turns in a 138.25. That's going to move him from 12th up to 10th, so he's going to gain a row. He's going to put himself on the outside of row number 5 next to Andrew Benna.
Yeah, that'll be a good run for him. I think he'll be pretty pleased with that. Any position that you're able to get is good. Looks like the last driver that we may have to cross over the line going to be Ray Blethen here. Let's see if he's able to improve off of a 138.3.
And as Blethen crosses the line, no, looks like he was off it. He puts in a 151 and change on that last flying lap. So it looks as though he and his brother are going to start right next to one another. But early on in the session, we thought it might be row number 5. Looks like it's going to be row number 6 for the twin brothers. All right, so some drivers here just finishing up their qualifying sessions. And they're going to be heading back to the pits. We'll get them gridded up here in just a moment. And lo and behold, like that, I snap my fingers, and here they come. And really quick here, Ray, let me quickly give you our, we'll give you our starting order, and then we'll talk about our sponsor for tonight's second race. Your pole sitter tonight is going to be Jamison Huffman with a pole time of 136.474. His teammate Morgan Burkhardt only 0.04 of a second off of that. He's going to start on the outside of row number 2. Nagase Yoshikawa, our Formula 4 winner tonight, he's going to start third with Andrew Rosencroft in 4th. Antonio Rice, he's going to start 5th tonight. Should be a little bit easier for him, not starting all the way back in 15th position. He's going to be on the inside of row number 3, while Beans Forster will start next to him in 6th. Josh Justice will start 7th tonight with Deacon Greenfield 8th. Andrew Benna 9th. Jeff Andrews 10th. Then we've got the Blethen brothers, Ray and Steven, starting 11th and 12th. Then we've got Justin Huffman starting 13th with Ray Wong 14th, Joe Camilleri 15th, Tom Froling 16th, Ryan Scott, Rich Green 17th and 18th. Row number 10 is going to be Mark Sherman and Joaquin Effinger, and then we've got Michael Brophy and Travis Trussell starting 21st and 22nd, and Robert Corzin. He's going to have to drive like any other Mustang driver to Cars and Coffee. He's starting 23rd. He's going to have to work his way through a lot of Miata traffic. Real quick, as we get this pace lap underway, let's talk about Grassroots Motorsports magazine that is built for the true sports car enthusiast. Grassroots Motorsports has one mission: to be your personal guide to the sports car world. Whether it's online at grassrootsmotorsports.com, in print, or in person, the racers and builders, the car nerds at Grassroots, take you behind the scenes and show you how to make your car better. Along the way, they'll give you a taste of everything else this hobby has to offer, from 1,000 horsepower track monsters to cool street cars built in driveways. They also maintain a collection of staff-built project cars, because hands-on technical articles aren't typed behind the desk, they're scribbled down in the garage. To not only read, but become part of the story, head on over to grassrootsmotorsports.com. All right, so the pace car is on the pit lane, DJ, and we've got an early green flag, and look at that, jumping to the inside is Yoshikawa in the number 98 machine, pulling up all the way alongside Jamison Huffman.
It looked like there was a little bit of contact coming across the start-finish line. Everybody tries to funnel their way down in through turn 1. I see one of the cars there a little bit offline, actually cutting down onto the pit entrance there. That may be a slowdown penalty, and a car hard into the barriers back behind.
And that's Mark Sherman, who's off coming out of turn 1 into the tire barriers. We'll have to see if he can continue. But, well, look at the front of that car. I don't think it's going to make it down to the keyhole. But as we jump back up to the front of the field, it is Jamison Huffman, your pole sitter, in the lead. He's got his teammate, Morgan Burkhardt, already battling, trying to come down the inside, going down into turn 4. Sitting back in third now is Andrew Rosencroft with Yoshikawa, who had that great start in the 98 machine, falls all the way back to 4th as he had to find his way through the pit exit through turn 1 and lost a little bit of ground. Then Beans Forster. Oh, we have a number of cars going around over at turn 4.
Oh my goodness, a big bunch of calamity going down through turn 4 and into turn 5. I see 4 or 5 cars off as it looks like everybody's going to be able to continue back on, but that was an absolute kerfluffle.
Indeed. Let's take a look and see if we can find out who this is. Looks like we had Ray Wong. We had Rich Green off track. I think Stephen Blethen off track. Tom Froling off track. Let's take a look. Let's take a look. I think we've got the replay here from the view of one of the Blethen brothers.
Indeed we do. So this is coming down into the corner. We wide on board with Ray here. He just gets tagged from behind. Somebody carrying a little bit too much speed down through the apex, and that is what really causes that big stack up there.
Yeah, and there, when you have a car go around there and sitting even 45 degrees across the track, there is not a lot of room to go anywhere. The cars are still carrying a lot of speed there. They can go through the gravel trap, or, you know, unfortunately, the way that track is profiled, there's a good chance as they turn in, they may not see the incident, even though it didn't seem all that far upstream from the apex here. And so that is going to send a lot of drivers. We've got Sherman and we've got Ray Wong now back in the pits. Looks like Robert, and as well as, and this is a big surprise here, Antonio Rice in the 914 car. I believe he took his car back to the pits as well. And all right, let's take a look and see exactly what happened to him, as it looks like Robert Corzin did not make the green flag. So there is Rice coming down the inside, going down into the keyhole, DJ, and looks like he gets a little love tap coming out of the keyhole and into the grass. Didn't look like I don't think a lot of damage there, but he immediately went back to the pits.
Yeah, I think that's just a little bit of frustration after being taken out so early. At least that would be my assessment there as we jump back here. Pretty close battle, Justice and Huffman. Huffman trying to take a little bit of a look down to the inside. That's not going to play itself out, though.
Now, remember, Huffman, we're looking at Huffman here, and I was a little surprised the last camera shot before we went to the replay to see him battling it out with Josh Justice, because the last time we saw Jamison Huffman, he was battling for the lead with Morgan Burkhart going into turn 4 right before that whole big melee happened there. So we may need to check back and see exactly what happened to the 89 machine. Is Morgan Burkhart in that blue number 40 machine? He is your leader. Andrew Rosencroft in the red 82nd. Nagase Yoshikawa running in third. And I think we've got that replay queued up. Let's take a look.
So this is what happened coming down into the lead here. Watch the 89 gets a little bit slideways, has to catch the car that's going to drop him back down the order. Did he get any contact? Yes, he did. Just enough to send him around, but I've got to give credit there to the 89 of Jamison Huffman. That is some fantastic car control. Yeah,
you saw that little wiggle coming out of turn 6. He gathered it back up, and you know, when you have a line of like 6 or 7 cars right behind you, and not a very wide track there, I think the inevitable happened, and good recovery for him in the grass. I think he might have had a little bit of contact with the number 80 machine. And you can see here, he's trying to battle up now with Yoshikawa as well as Deacon Greenfield as they came through turn 7 and over through now turn 9. And well, this is Spec Miata racing, I think, DJ, or you know, MX5 racing with just very tight, close quarters, and you know, you're seeing 3 cars wide where you don't think even 2 could fit, as Huffman's going to try and force the car underneath the 98 machine going into the carousel. Oh, and a little bit of contact there coming out of the final corner.
Little bit of bumping and banging, and I think it's going to continue on here. Huffman wants that position, going to try to move to the inside here of Yoshikawa. They're going to be side by side coming through turn 1, carrying the momentum is going to be Huffman. Is he going to have just enough ahead? We ride on board with Deacon Greenfield, who sits in the popcorn position.
Well, there you go. Now you see Huffman get around the 98 machine, and now the 98 machine popping to the inside, back to the outside, popping to the inside to see if he could find a way underneath the 89 machine. All the while, Deacon Greenfield keeps seeing holes open up and close directly in front of him. But all that fighting right there, back for 4th position, and actually back for 3rd position, is allowing our 2 leaders, Morgan Burkhart and Beans Forster, to separate themselves out from the rest of the field, as Yoshikawa late on the brakes, coming in underneath Andrew Rosencroft, going down in the 4. And you're going to see here now that Deacon Greenfield follows Yoshikawa through, so move Rosencroft now back into 6th position, as he gives up 2 positions in the span of 1 turn there, and I don't think he could have done anything about it, DJ.
No, I don't think he could have either, and it goes to the momentum conversation that we were having earlier. If you get offline, if you find yourself losing that momentum, it's going to take you a couple of corners to get back online, get back under speed, and that's exactly what can happen if you've got a big pack like this running together.
Yeah, it's more a question of damage mitigation there, that I think, than anything else. As we jump back a little bit further, here's Andrew Benno, who had his issues in race 1, and Michael Brophy. Brophy, who started 21st, sitting back in 8th position, and it sounds like Andrew Benno, who started off in 9th tonight, maybe had some more issues here tonight. Let's take a look.
Coming down into the corner. Oh, I think that may have been some internet issues that maybe scared the 71 offline a little bit, potentially. A hard break there for Benno.
Yeah, it's got to be difficult when you see cars either appear and disappear and reappear, or sometimes in the sim you see them hopping and bouncing around, and it can definitely throw you off. But not thrown off at the moment is Morgan Burkhardt, who has cleared himself of Beans Forster. And now look at this. Huffman, who found himself at one point all the way back in 7th position, in a battle for second, going into turn 4, side by side with the 231 machine. The 231 is going to have position going up into madness, but as they roll back down the hill, this is where the 89 machine now comes back to the fore, and it took 3 turns. But Jamison Huffman now, our pole sitter this evening, finds himself back into 2nd position. Move Beans Forster back in the 3rd, all the while Morgan Burkhardt, who can't seem, because of how well these cars draft, can't seem to really break away from the field. But and the good recovery there by Josh Justice coming through turn 9. He let it all hang out coming over the rise.
Yeah, he certainly did. Sounds like we're going to be jumping back to a replay here to check that out, as this was Justice. Let's watch his hands here coming over the rise. We talked about how difficult of a corner this is. Going to bring the car out wide, starts to lose it, starts to gather it up back under him. 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. There, counter steer through. My goodness, car control to the max.
Yeah, looked real good there. He turned in a little bit early and saw, and obviously there saw as he ran out of room as the car got light, but very good recovery. A little bit of counter steer, kept the front end and the rear end aligned. And as the track came back to him, he continued on. Didn't lose that many positions. He is still sitting back in 7th. As we jump back to this battle for the lead as they come down the back straight. And, again, here's the power of the draft. Jamison Huffman, who just a lap ago was fighting with Beans Forster right on this portion of the track, has now drafted himself right up to the back of the number 40 machine. And it is once again a we'll call it at least a 4-car battle for the lead here. And all it took is 1 turn. It's now a 5-car battle.
Oh, mistake up in front from Burkhardt.
And we saw Jamison Huffman make the same mistake in the same place 3 laps ago. It dropped him back to 7th. It drops Burkhardt, our former leader, now back into 5th position, as we're not even halfway through this race. But a great recovery for Burkhardt as we take a look. Let's see exactly what happened as they started to come through the S's.
Looks like the car's a little bit sideways there, brings it back over to the left, but just clips the grass on corner entrance, and that is enough to send him spitting out into the outside. Ooh. I think he picked up some damage there from the tire barriers as well. Yeah, it looked like, and you see their driver's left. There's a very hard edge, a 90-degree edge to the tire barriers and Armco there, and it looks like he may have just clipped it. If not, it was millimeters that separated him from maybe the end of his day. But your new leader now, Nagase Yoshikawa, the 98 machine, and he is under attack by who? By Morgan Burkhardt, who already, DJ, is this insane? In the course of just half a lap, works his way up from 5th all the way back to the lead, as we're now 3 wide coming down into turn number 4. And watch out here. Huffman's got the best run. I think he's going to be able to be just clear of the 40 of Burkhardt. Now, there you see, whoa, late on the brakes was Yoshikawa. How did he slow that one down in time? I don't know how he held on to it. Deacon Greenfield was coming all the way down the inside, and I think he knew he probably had to get on the brakes earlier than the other 2 cars. He now slots into 2nd position,
having started in 8th tonight, Deacon Greenfield has already made up 6 positions here and is sitting second. Morgan Burkhardt, our former leader. I'm still just amazed that Morgan Burkhardt was challenging for the lead only 1.2 miles after he had put the car into the grass and had almost put it into the tire wall here. And you see here now as they come through that high-speed turn 11 and down towards the carousel. Greenfield literally caught to the outside coming through the carousel, but he manages to hold off Andrew Rosencroft in the 80.
Yeah, able to keep him underneath him there for the moment. Let's see now if he's able to fight back a little bit here. We ride on board with Rosencroft. Remember, he's had an up and down race as well, so this isn't exactly smooth sailing for anybody in this top 5, top 6 group.
No, certainly not, as now we've got a little bit of a breakaway. Burkhardt moving all the way drivers. Oh, and he tries to come across, Yoshikawa does not clear him and gets the nose right into the door, and Morgan Burkhardt now has to have the recovery drive, maybe not of his life, but certainly of the evening. He's already come back from 7th. He's now gonna, or from 5th, he's gonna have to come back from 7th. Let's take a look here, DJ. As they came down into the keyhole, Burkhardt moved all the way drivers left to try to sweep across the 98 machine.
Yeah, he did, and he just slightly misjudged that. I think he thought he had a little bit more clearance than he actually did, and as a result, he came just right across Yoshikawa's nose, and that was enough to send him spinning around.
Yeah, and you know, if we look at that a little more closely, I think also Yoshikawa did not turn in maybe as early as he had previously, and it looked like the trajectory that he was taking was not a very tight line heading towards the apex. Maybe he was going to leave himself about a quarter of the car width, and that just removed any kind of clearance that Burkhardt would have had here. As Yoshikawa now is your leader, Deacon Greenfield is now up into 2nd, Wozencroft 3rd, and Josh Justice, who had that wild ride just a couple laps ago over turn 9. Josh Justice just off the podium for the moment, started 7th. He is now 4th, and definitely in contention for a podium here as we have our top 4 cars breaking away.
Yeah, he is certainly on the move here at this point, but here comes Deacon Greenfield challenging Yoshikawa up for the lead. Not going to see a repeat of that same move, as it looks like Deacon's going to give him plenty of space. He's going to slot in just in front of Andrew Rosencroft.
Yeah, and so right behind that lead pack, we had Justin Huffman leading Morgan Burkhardt and Beans Forster through, and I think Jamison Huffman was in that battle as well. The last thing Jamison wants to do is wreck out his dad, I think. So we'll see how that group plays out here as our leaders now coming down side by side into turn number 4 once again. And Wozencroft catches a lot of grass at the apex. Oh, it comes right across. Who is that he contacted? I think that was Jamison Huffman. But
maybe Justice looks like he's involved in it as well.
Yeah, so as Wozencroft came across, let's take a look here, but it is now 2 cars at the front of the field, Yoshikawa and Greenfield. Let's take a look and see exactly what happened here. Coming down into turn 4, you'll see Yoshikawa and Greenfield. Oh, and coming deep, Josh Justice gets into the back of Andrew Wozencroft. Morgan Burkhardt then collecting him as well. And that is the second big impact that Justice had tonight. We had that one earlier on where he and Joaquin Effinger got together in the Formula 4 race. But yeah, let's take a look. Yeah, let's see if we can see it from Josh Justice's standpoint here, because I think for the second time tonight also, you know, the rate of closure just was very, very quick there.
Yeah, it certainly was. I think Wozencroft took a little bit of an unexpected line there for him, cutting across Joshua Justice, and again, just really no time to respond there. He tried to jump on the binders, and then he found himself there on the side of the road.
Yeah, so that will bring Josh Justice into the pits. We can see Joaquin Effinger there as well. With just about 5 minutes remaining in this 20-minute race, their evenings are now done. Yoshikawa is using this 20-minute race. Their evenings are now done. Yoshikawa is your leader, and look at this side by side now. The battle for 3rd position, Beans Forster and Morgan Burkhardt, and I don't know how much contact that number 40 machine can take, but the fact that he's still battling here for a podium DJ, just astounds me at this point.
Yeah, it astounds me as well. It's a very, very impressive thing. And look at this. He's throwing moves left, right, and center, trying to get on Beans Forrester there through turn 9.
Yeah, he tries to sneak right underneath Forster as they come through 9 and make their way down through Thunder Valley. Now, Forster's going to have that move to the inside, but no. Forster drops behind the 40 machine as they come through turn number 9, or probably through turn 10, and head down into the carousel. So move Morgan Burkhardt now back up into 3rd position. I mean, he's just the yo-yo here tonight, going from the lead back to 5th, going back to the lead back to 7th. And here we go. He is now sitting in 3rd as we now have only 3 minutes remaining.
My goodness, where does the time go? And it looks like Jamison Huffman here setting the fastest lap of the race, so don't sleep on this number 89. He's moving his way up through the field.
And he tries to slice right underneath the 231 machine, and he gets that move done. So move Jamison Huffman, who was your pole sitter tonight, now up into 4th position. And it is now a 5-car battle for the lead with just a touch under 3 minutes remaining here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. DJ, this is exactly what you want to see out of Miata Racing.
Oh, it's everything and more. It's absolutely fantastic to see it. A little bit of a wide run there for Yoshikawa, but he's able to gather her back up under him. But here comes Burkhardt on Deacon Greenfield.
And Burkhardt pushes Greenfield, doesn't push him, but sneaks underneath him, coming in the madness, and pushes him wide, and that's going to cause him to lose a lot of momentum. And Greenfield, who was sitting in 2nd just 2 corners ago, now is fighting to hold on to 3rd as he is side by side through turn 9 with Jamison Huffman, having Morgan Burkhardt already moved up in the 2nd position. And Huffman slides on by the 36 machine to move the 89 car now up into 3rd. Beans Forster, our championship leader coming into this evening's race, he now sits back in 5th position as our leader. Nagase Yoshikawa rounds the final corner. He comes onto the front straight. Should be 2 more laps to go here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. These drivers are doing 137s, 138s, and we've got now about a minute 40 remaining on the clock. It's going to be kind of close. But we should have this in one more here as Morgan Burkhardt, he's challenging for the lead once again with Yoshikawa. This time, Burkhardt goes wide, he goes deep. I think he decided to give Yoshikawa the clearance that he didn't give him a couple laps ago, and then maybe try to turn it into a good run out of the keyhole. And he's going to sit in 2nd now as they head down to turn 4. And he was almost had to worry there about the 89 car sneaking underneath him as well.
Yeah, it looked like Hoffman may have been able to send a little bit of a move, but now they're going to go side by side, as are Forster and Greenfield farther back in the field. It is double wide action all over the place here.
And maybe a little bump and run there from Burkhardt on Yoshikawa as Burkhardt now moves back to the lead. Yoshikawa having to fend off the 89 machine as they come through turn number 6, go into the S's, and Yoshikawa getting a lot of grass at apex as they come through turn 8 and now up the hill through turn number 9.
They're going to try to hold this together, but I think Hoffman here may be in the mood for a little bit of an attack as they come into the carousel. He's certainly almost given him a bump draft there through Thunder Valley. Going to stay in line here at this point, but watch out as the white flag's going to fly this time by.
And as they come down through the carousel, Yoshikawa runs very deep, has to get down to the apex, holds off the 89 machine, at least for the moment. And as they come now across the start-finish line, white flag is in the air. Morgan Burkhardt, once again, your leader, as he has had the wildest of evenings here, running now about 4 car lengths back. It is Nagase Yoshikawa, our previous leader, just a lap ago, sitting in 2nd. Jamison Huffman coming down the inside, and he's got a lot of overlap there coming into the keyhole. Yoshikawa comes across the nose of Beans Forster to try and limit the damage as Jamison Huffman now slots into 2nd position. Move Yoshikawa back to 3rd, but he's got the run coming down the back straight here. We'll see what happens as they come down into 4.
Let's see if Yoshikawa decides to try to move to the inside. Looks like that's exactly what he's going to try to do, but Huffman's later on the binders, and he is going to completely rebuff that move from Yoshikawa.
So Yoshikawa now having to hold off the 231 machine once again as they come over the top of that hill at turn 5 at Madness. One more time, Morgan Burkhardt has opened up now almost a 4 car length advantage over his teammate Jamison Huffman. Yoshikawa sitting back in third, Beans Forster in fourth, and Deacon Greenfield, who for a time had been as high as second, running about 6 car lengths, maybe 5 car lengths back from our lead 4. He's in 5th position as Morgan Burkhardt now comes up through turn 10 and heading down towards the carousel for the final time. And look at the slip angle there, but he has got this under control. Maybe for the very first time tonight, he can breathe a sigh of relief as he comes out of the final corner and comes across the line. Morgan Burkhardt, he is your winner as Jamison Huffman crosses the line in second. Yoshikawa is going to come home in third. Beans Forster will come home in 4th position tonight. Greenfield will finish in 5th. Justin Huffman in the 223 machine. And looks like now the bump and run begins. Justin Huffman will come home in 6th. Jeff Andrews 7th. The Blethen brothers, much like they started this race, nose to tail. Ray Blethen comes home in 8th. Stephen Blethen will finish 9th. And Travis Trussell, your hard charger of the evening, started 22nd, finishes in 10th tonight here at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, as it looks like the majority of the field now just sitting outside of turn 1.
It's the benefits of doing this on a virtual world, is you can have a little bit more fun with destruction.
There are more cars sitting right there, DJ, than I think my local Mazda dealer down here in Charlotte right now. If you're looking to buy an MX-5, head to Mid-Ohio right now. Whoa, there you go.
Big ol' hit. Strike.
Oh my gosh. All right, let the pit parties begin. More tire smoke than we've seen for a while. All right, so again, Burkhardt, your winner. Huffman finishing second. Yoshikawa will take home the third. Well, actually, is that right? So we're showing Yoshikawa as in third. I'm wondering. Notice that. We're seeing this again. We're showing Burkhardt back in 12th position. And I'm wondering if he got black flagged for incidents. We saw this at Road Atlanta, DJ, where I think Tim was sitting in that night, and both Huffman and Burkhardt that night had been pushed all the way back in the order to the end of that completed lap, and I think it had to do with how many incident points they had received, that they had gotten a black flag warning. But let's do this. Let's bring in, let's start off with Jamison Huffman, who is our pole sitter tonight, and we'll figure out what the heck's going on here. But Jamison Huffman, driver of the number 89 machine, finishing, we think, second tonight at Mid-Ohio.
Jamison, it looked like a bit of a yo-yo race for you there, mistake early on, but you clearly had the speed and charging back up through the field.
Yeah, it was, I think I killed my tires lap 3 trying to do the charge, and I know Morgan wasn't pulling away necessarily, but wasn't slowing down. And funny enough, I did get first because Morgan did run out of X's on the last lap.
Okay, we did wonder about that. We wondered what happened there with that. But talk to me a little bit about your mentality. After the mistake early on, were you in full attack mode, or were you just kind of letting the race come to you?
You ran out on the last lap right after the finish.
It was... It was full attack mode, basically. I do think I did turn Antonio Ruiz. I was trying to give him some bump drafts out of the keyhole, and it didn't end too well, so I'd like to say sorry for that on him. But yeah, it was full attack straight from the mistake. And tires burned off, and it was still full attack.
Gotta love that mentality. Next time out, we head to another track that is notoriously difficult to overtake on in the form of Laguna Seca. How do you like your chances there?
I really like Laguna. I'm definitely quicker at Laguna than other tracks, but the same thing for Morgan and some of my other buddies. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. Probably gonna try and go too wide for multiple laps with Morgan, because that's how we like to do it, put on a show.
Well, I am very much looking forward to seeing that show. But Jamison, as for today, who makes this possible for you?
I'd like to thank my parents first, and then I'd like to also thank Morgan's parents. And I'd like to thank you guys for putting this on and the whole ASR team.
More than happy to. Jamison Huffman here, your, what we think is victor on the day.
All right, there you go. There's Jamison Huffman. So, should we bring in our 12th? John, throw the finishing order back up on the screen. So, should we bring in our 12th place finisher tonight, Morgan Burkhardt? Because I think he had pretty much the drive of the race anyhow, DJ. All right, let's bring in Morgan Burkhardt. This may be the first time we have our 12th place finisher. I guess one for every incident point he picked up here this evening. Morgan Burkhardt, driver of the number 40 machine.
Yeah, Morgan, a little bit disappointing there, man. You had the drive of the race, being able to work your way back up through the field, and incident limits coming back to bite you.
Yeah. I was with 5.5 minutes to go. I looked at the incident counter, and it was just like 11 out of 12, and I was like, let's just get around these few people, and then just try and like really inch it towards the line, and unfortunately got one. So, oh well. It was a fun race though. We had a good time. After Jamison had his little excursion early in the race, I kind of tried to back up the pack a little bit and kind of compress it so he could get back through, and that worked. And then we had some battles after that, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, talk me through the race here, because it is so notoriously difficult to overtake around Mid-Ohio. How were you really trying to find your lines and pick those places where you could go for that overtake?
Well, I've experimented a lot with passing here, so I was kind of just picking my spots that I could force people to be offline and get runs out of corners, especially out of the keyhole down to China Beach, and I could go around the outside and then force them to kind of pinch the exit, and I could get the run all the way down the straight and pass them to China Beach. So it's all about, because it's so difficult to just pass on the brakes, because the braking zones, they're A, not long enough, and B, the corners aren't shaped properly. So you really have to get people offline and then get runs out of the corners so you can be farther alongside than you would be with just traffic.
Well, I asked the same question to Jamison here a little bit ago. We head to another place that's a little notorious to difficult to overtake on in Laguna next time out. How do you like your chances?
I've always done pretty well at Laguna. It's a fun track. It's a very rhythmic track, so you kind of have to just be picture perfect and hit your apexes right. And if you do that, it's very difficult to pass, because bar any mistakes, there's not really any good passing zones. You can do it into the corkscrew, but it's the corkscrew, so it's not really a good one. So it's difficult, but it's possible.
Well, we wish you all the luck in the world when you head there, Morgan. Maybe one less incident point on the day, but who makes this possible?
I'd like to thank my parents, of course, for putting all of this on, and the rest of the guys, Jamison, Beans, Andrew, Deacon. There's too many to name anymore, but it was a lot of fun. But yeah, and Apex Racing TV, Stevie Ray, Greg Goobler, and you guys for broadcasting. It's a lot of fun.
We are more than happy to do so. That was your 12th place finisher, Morgan Burkhardt.
All right, thanks so much to Morgan. So, DJ, let's go and start to wrap things up here, because I've got to get on the road for Thanksgiving here soon. Oddly enough, I'm heading up to the Burkhardt's parents' house for Thanksgiving. Anyway, yeah, so he can thank me in person. Anyway, as we wrap up here tonight, of course, same request. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and click on that thumbs up and punch that big thumbs up, and subscribe to Apex Racing TV and click on the notification bell. And of course, you can find us on the major the major social media platforms, Apex Racing TV. But next Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time, I'm kind of early in DJ land, but 9 p.m. Eastern time, we are going to be on the West Coast, maybe a little bit closer for DJ there. We're going to be heading out to the Monterey Peninsula and to just outside of Salinas, California, to the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. And as I think Morgan pretty much gave us all that we need to lead into that night. It's going to be another tough one for these drivers, as we've got our Spec Racer Fords returning. They're going to have their 5th of 6 races on the season, and the MX-5s, once again, we're going to give the Formula 4 drivers the night off. So for DJ Clark, for John Grabowski, I'm Greg Ginsburg. We'll see you next week, Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. Have a very happy Thanksgiving, everybody.